Hello there, and welcome back to the Codex. So, today I'm very excited to bring you the fact that Excalibur, the poster boy for Warframe, got a extreme glow up in the Coda update. Some of the changes, actually all of the changes perhaps, if I can get them all right off the top of my head, the Exalted waves now travel faster, they're able to build melee combo, and they're able to trigger TennoCreate, although it is worth noting that the TennoCreate will only count one hit per wave, so even if one Exalted wave hits, 20 guys because they have punch through, it still is going to only count for one hit, which is totally fine. It's still incredible that ranged attacks can now build combo and TennoCreate. Like all Exalteds now, and Pseudos, which are now Exalteds, he's able to equip an Arcane on his Exalted Blade. You're also able to use new mods that he wasn't able to use before, like Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, the Acolyte mods, and things like that. So absolutely incredible changes, and I have 4 different builds for you today. First of all, the shards that I'm using, which you do not need, he is completely incredible still if you use absolutely 0 Archon Shards, but if you want to invest, I'm using 2 Tau-Forged Violet Archon Shards, which gives you 37% increased melee critical damage, which does apply to his blade, although the bonus is doubled if you have energy over 500, which all of these builds do, because we're using Prime Flow, so these are actually basically 75% crit damage per shard. So with 2 of these, you're adding about 150% crit damage to his Exalted Blade, which is of course a nice chunky damage increase. The other 3 shards are ability strength, so with 3 of these being Tau-Forged, this is an extra 45% strength. Now let's go ahead and hop into build number 1 of 4, which is the basic Gloom health tanking build. This is going to be a build that you can effectively take anywhere, not have to worry about survival. You'll turn all enemies near you effectively into statues with the slow on Gloom, and you will lifesteal from his Exalted Blade damage, which is really nice. Now for the Arcanes, I went for Energize for energy sustain, which is essentially the choice on all 4 of these builds, and we're using Arcane Guardian for 900 flat armor. The reason why I'm using Guardian instead of Reaper, if you're wondering, because Reaper is basically a Arcane that seems purpose-built for Excalibur, because it gives you 24 health regen and 660 armor on melee kill. It's because this only gives 660 armor, instead of Guardian's 900, and since we already have Gloom for lifesteal, the health regen from this is not as valuable, so I prefer just the max armor. But we will use this in a later build that you'll see. Now, of course, every one of these 4 builds is also going to use Chromatic Blade. This is a cornerstone of why Excalibur has always been somewhat usable, and the reason why, paired with his buffs that he just got, why he's incredible now. We're also using Furious Javelin, so this is actually a double augment build. Furious Javelin gives you increased melee damage, including to his Exalted Blade, for every enemy that you hit with Javelin. Now, it's very important to note that this is not base melee damage. This is not additive to Pressure Point, for example. This is actually a Eclipse-style multiplicative multiplier. So if you get a 500% Javelin buff, that is actually a 500% damage increase, multiplicative to his base damage that you have after Prime Pressure Point, for example. So an absolutely insane amount of damage. And then we also have adaptation here to, again, stack with the triple umbral and the Gloom and the Guardian. So very, very health tanky, very easy to survive on any normal level content, and it does glorious amounts of damage. Now, one quick note of something that you can utilize on all of these builds. An interesting thing about the fact that I have 222 strength in this build is that puts me exactly 50 strength away from maxing out the slow on Gloom at 95%. There's a way that you can easily get an extra 50% strength to snapshot onto channeled abilities like Gloom and Exalted Blade, and that's by using a mod that people always forget about, which is a Parazon mod called Power Drain. This mod says next ability cast after Mercy Killing gains plus 50% ability strength. So, this is incredibly easy to trigger by going after an Xmas, for example, taking off their Overguard, and then doing a Mercy Kill on them by utilizing his Radial Howl or Radial Blind on regular Excalibur, because this will open enemies to finishers by stunning them, so you can basically on command to do that. You could also use any secondary that you want, for one, to use the 2 Augur mods for shield gating, and furthermore, since you don't need your secondary anyway, you could specifically use the Bronco and use the Dizzying Rounds augment, which says shots from less than 8 meters stun enemies and open them to finishers with plus 200% stats chance. So this is a super easy way to, again, you could just shoot somebody with this, open them to a finisher, do that Mercy Kill on an Xmas, for example, because I think it only counts as a Mercy Kill on Xmas, if I'm not mistaken. But go ahead and do that, and then you get a free 50% strength. Then cast something like your Exalted Blade, or your Gloom, and you'll snapshot an extra 50% strength to them. So very, very effective. Now let's go on to the Blade build here. As you would expect, it's a melee influence build. Surprise, surprise. With most of the mods that you would probably expect to see here, we're allowed to use Blood Rush now, which is incredible. Blood Rush, paired with the crit chance from Galvanized Steel and the set bonus from Gladiator Might, puts us over 100% crit chance, so you're always critting and even hitting some orange crits. Very, very nice. We have Electric from Shocking Touch, as well as Electric from, since we're using the Chromatic Blade augment, your energy color determines the elemental damage bonus you get, so make sure that this is giving you Electric. So change your emissive color to make sure that it's Electric. Pair that with Shocking Touch, and we get a nice amount of pure electric damage here, which is what we want because we're using melee influence. Now, Galvanized Elementalist is going to multiply that by 1.8, thanks to the 80% status damage, along with giving us another 120% status chance on top of the already huge amount we have here, thanks to the augment. And the massive, massive multiplier we have for influence is from the Prime Smite mods. Now, I know a lot of you hate using Smite mods, but when you're using a melee influence setup, this is so much damage, because this is triple dipped by melee influence. So this is actually 1.55 times 1.55 times 1.55, which is a 272% damage increase, meaning this almost quadruples your melee influence electric proc damage. So this is very hard to lose, because it literally almost quarters your influence. But if you really hate Smite mods, go ahead and throw on Voltaic Strike, and you can increase that electric weighting even more and turn it into basically a universal build. But if you want to go absolute max insane damage, make sure they're using a Smite and swap it out for whatever you're currently fighting. Assuming that the faction has a Smite mod, otherwise swap it out. For example, if you're fighting Tech Rot, there's no Smite Tech Rot. Now let's go ahead and hop into a Lure Conjunction Survival and showcase how incredible that this is. So here we are in this survival mission. I'm going to show you the beginning here just to showcase the fact that we are able to build melee ranged hits, or build combo rather, on ranged hits, which is incredible. We can also trigger TennoCreate, and there's that new cross-shaped heavy attack. Very, very cool and very effective. You can also see melee influence going off, which does an incredible amount of AoE damage, and even more so once we get to 12x combo to max out that crit chance. Speaking of which, just to save you guys some time, let's go ahead and skip ahead until I'm at 12x. Now, don't forget about the trick I mentioned with power drain. So let's get this Xmas here. Let's take his overguard off, hit him with the Bronco, and then do a Mercy. Oh, he died too fast. Here's another one here. We'll do it on this guy. Hit him with a Mercy kill. And then we'll activate that power drain buff. And this, again, gives us an extra 50% strength, which now means our Gloom, as you can see here, will be a max 95% slow. So let's go ahead and recast that. And now we're at max slow. So everybody in our Gloom radius is turned into a statue, basically. And here we are at 12x combo, a truly incredible amount of damage. Although, as much damage as you can see here, let's go ahead and activate Javelin, and boom, we just hit an extra 625% damage, which again is like an Eclipse multiplier. So now we're doing millions of damage on some of these guys. And those influence procs are, of course, propagating massive amounts of AoE clear. So the damage potential from this is just incredible. The survivability is ridiculously easy with this amount of health tanking and armor stacking, the slow from Gloom, the life steal from Gloom. You basically just have everything you want on this build, but we still have 3 more builds to go, so let's hop over to the second one. So for build number 2 here, we're going a Eternal Warcry build. So Warcry gives you an extra armor bonus and attack speed bonus to your melee based off your power strength. And then we're using the Eternal War Augment, which allows you to keep War up permanently, your Warcry rather up permanently, which one of the really powerful things about this, along with being nice quality of life, is that since it turns it into basically a snapshot ability, if you stack a ton of strength, including temporary buffs like Matter Eye Sling if you use that instead of Nairmon, or the Power Drain mod, like we've been discussing, or Corruption in the Fissure, all that, you can capture that and keep that permanently, so you can really juice up this armor and attack speed buff. Now, since we really want power strength to increase that Warcry bonus, we swapped out Guardian for Augmented. So, we no longer have Guardian, we no longer have Gloom, and we don't have any seemingly kind of healing in this build, so how are we staying alive on this health tank build in regards to our health regeneration? Well, since we're using Warcry giving us attack speed, we opened up the mod slot on Exalted Blade for Berserker. We don't need Berserker anymore, so I put in Life Strike. Now that the heavy attack on Exalted Blade has a ranged element, it's very easy to use Life Strike to throw out those free TennoCreate heavy attacks and instantly heal yourself, because 20% of your heavy attack damage is going to fully heal you on every single hit, because whether you're at 1 health or 500 or whatever, 20% of the damage that you deal on heavy is way more damage than your health pool needs. So this is literally a full heal on every heavy attack, and you can do those heavy attacks constantly for free thanks to Discipline's merit. So let's go ahead and hop into the mission and showcase this. So here we are on the Warcry Excalibur. I already got myself to the 250 augmented stacks and recast. That way you could see the full Warcry bonus. Also, just to show off the snapshotting, I stood near the Guardian guy here that gives you 50% more strength. So that's another extra 50% you can snapshot on. That essentially just simulates the extra 50% you get from Power Drain, because I actually didn't use that. So even without the Lone Guardian, you could reach the amount of attack speed I see here just by using that Power Drain trick on an Xmas enemy. Yeah, the attack speed is hilarious. And just to showcase the Life Strike healing, I'm going to actually let them take some health away from me, hopefully here. If the enemies actually do their job and, you know, do damage to me, that'd be great. Come on, guys, I believe in you. You can do this. You can actually hurt me. And once they get my health down, there we go, got it down a little bit. Let's go ahead and get a heavy attack. Do one heavy attack and boom, back to full health. Because again, that Life Strike, those waves, that Exalted cross wave counts as a heavy attack hit. So it's a full heal on every single one of your TennoCreate hits. So very, very easy to sustain your health on this extremely high attack speed, very funny Warcry build. Now let's go ahead and showcase the next build. Now this next build is going to be a Wrathful Advanced Excalibur. This is going to be for those of you out there that want to do the absolutely insane, super juiced out max damage Excalibur build, because Wrathful Advanced gives you a ton of flat melee crit chance. It functions like Avenger essentially. So on this current strength value, we're getting 221% flat crit chance, which when you pair that with the little bit of crit chance that we still have on the blade itself, plus the galvanized mod, we're basically at around 50 or 60% chance to get red crits. So absolutely delicious amounts of damage. And now on this build, we're using Arcane Reaper. I mentioned we would be using that later. So this is giving you 24 health regen per second and 660 armor on melee kill. And this will effectively be our only regen on the build. So it's very effective. So we switched over to using that. Now in terms of the blade, since we're getting all of our flat crit from Wrathful, you don't need crit chance mods anymore. So we're able to swap out Blood Rush for Weeping Wounds, and once this is stacked up all the way, since it gives you 440%, 440% of the base 15% means this is giving us another 66% status chance. So again, massively increasing our ratio of electric procs that we put out. We also didn't care about the crit chance from Gladiator Might anymore, so we switched over to Organ Shatter for more raw crit damage. So very effective. Let's go ahead and hop into the mission and showcase this. So here's the Wrathful Advanced Excalibur build. As you can see, you do mostly red crits, and if you don't, you're still hitting at least orange crits. Thanks to the fact that we are still using galvanized steel on the build, because it's essentially an upgraded version of Organ Shatter, we are still getting a little bit of crit chance modding. So with that combined from the 247% flat crit chance we're currently getting, we are over a 50% probability of getting red crits. And here comes the Acolyte here. Now make sure that when you're using Wrathful Advanced that you use the teleport, like just the location teleport, instead of actually teleporting to an enemy, because when you teleport to an enemy, it initiates a heavy attack, and that will consume all of your combo, which you do not want to do, of course. You could do it while you have TennoCreate active to get a free heavy attack, but just make sure that you time that properly. Otherwise, just kind of look at the ground and do the teleport, and that will give you the crit chance buff duration, same as if you actually teleport to an enemy. So yeah, tons of damage. This is essentially the max damage version of Excalibur if you want to sacrifice some potential survivability, for example. Although survivability is with Arcane Reaper is really still not an issue, at least at normal enemy levels. Let's go ahead and take this guy out. So yeah, it's very good. As you can see, it has 0 issues taking out Acolytes, and that was without even using heavy attack. If you use one of your TennoCreate free heavy attacks on an Acolyte, you literally one-hit them. So it's very good at killing them. Very good at killing regular enemies, of course. The juiced up crits are making melee influence do an exorbitantly high amount of damage. So yeah, there's really no issues with this build. Let's move on to the next one. All right, here we are on build number 4. And here is the shield gating build meant to appease those of you out there in my comments that for some reason think you need to shield gate on every single frame to go and do a 20-minute survival. So we're doing a Omamori gating build here. So we're combining catalyzing shields with Omamori, making you basically ignore half the hits that you take. And we also have rolling guard on here. So all of the super level cap stuff that you absolutely need to put on to go and do your level 50 exterminator, whatever that you're going to do. So here is the setup. We're using Arcane Aegis paired with Rolling Guard for invulnerability. Blind Rage makes our abilities cost even more, so it's super easy to shield gate, although technically, using Radial Howl, you actually don't even need to make it cost more, because with catalyzing shields on, he only has 74 shields, which is a really easy number to hit with Brief Respite, or even just the Augur mods on your secondary. So we swapped out all of the umbrals. We took off, because of course you don't need any health mods or armor mods or whatnot when you're shield getting. So we swapped everything out. We're using Precision Intensify, which is going to buff up both the blade's direct damage and the amount of stats you get from Chromatic Blade, since it's an augment for the 4th. We're using Blind Rage to really juice up the power strength. Catalyzing shields again, like I said, and Augur Message is the mod that you would probably want to swap out here for something like Equilibrium if you could fit it. I just can't because I kept the umbral polarities on here and I don't feel like replacing another one. So this would probably be something like Equilibrium to really make sure you have enough energy to spam that Radial Howl whenever you need to shield gate yourself. So let's go ahead and hop into a mission and showcase how effective this is. So here we are on the Omamori shield gating build. You'll notice it is very effective at keeping you alive. The Omamori, most of the time, will mean that you don't even really have to be actively triggering your shield gate. Between it giving you shields back roughly half the time and your Arcane Aegis going off, it is incredibly easy to just passively have your shields basically constantly maxed out, and then whenever they do zero out, all you have to do is do one cast of Radial Howl, and you'll get your full shield value back, which, thanks to catalyzing shields, is a 1.33 second shield gate. So very easy to kind of just keep your shields constantly cycling. And this went back to using the normal melee influence blade setup, by the way. That's why I didn't show the build. There's no special build for the setup. You just use the original influence build, and you're pretty much good to go. This is really just a build for if you are actually going to go to absurdly high levels and you can't rely on health tanking anymore. Because people in my comments are always, commenting about how everything is a health tank build and, you can't use that and blah, blah, blah. Even though 99% of the community doesn't go past, like, level 200 probably, which means health tanking is actually completely viable. But, like I said, to appease the supposed level cap crowd out there, here is your shield gating setup. And again, it is very effective. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just that you don't really need it for most content in the game. But yeah, here you go. Constant Omamori shield uptime. Very good damage from just the normal influence setup. Very good to go. So if you're going to do level 10,000, here is the Excalibur build for you. So overall, the changes to Excalibur are absolutely incredible. He is a super, super viable frame now for real Steel Path missions. Even if you want to go for several hours in something like a survival, for example, which is something that I actually plan to test out. I really want to take him to like a 2, 3, 4 hour long survival on one of my favorite missions, which is the Lua Conjunction Survival Fisher, and benefit from that double strength snapshot corruption. Seems like it'd be a really fun time. Let me know down below, what do you guys think of this Excalibur change? How do you like it? Have you done anything different with the build? Something maybe non-melee influence, for example? Although it is pretty hard to beat, turning his Exalted Blade into a 20-meter nuke. Anyways, you guys can look forward to more builds coming out for all of the other frames that got changes. Bruk and Mesa and Titania. All of that. More to come. I'm still working on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.